Hello, in this video I'm again still talking about solving multi-step equations. I'm going to do three-step examples this time. This is generally, I have one variable, they're on more than one side, and I still have to solve for that one variable. So in this problem, just like before, I need all of my variables on the same side, and then all of my numbers to the other side. So I usually tell my students that I bring my baby to my mama, so the smallest number on the number line towards the biggest number on the number line. So 4 is smaller than 6, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4x from both sides. And because it has an x, it's like terms with this 6x. It's not like terms with this 4. So here's my imaginary wall. And if I had like terms and they were on the same side, I could just combine them together. If I had 6 apples and I was taking away 4 apples, I have 2 apples left, right? So it's just on the same side. If you're moving from one side to the other, you have to change the sign. You have to do the opposite to make a zero pair. I've told students sometimes if you cross the line, you have to change the sign. So that might be a rhyme that helps you if rhymings help. So after I move this 4x over by doing the opposite, making this a zero pair, 6x minus 4x gives me a 2x. I still have this minus 4. We didn't touch that one yet. The equal sign is still where the equal sign should be. This became a zero pair, so it's gone. Then I have a negative 9. This minus sign should get brought down. It's grouped with the 9. So don't forget to do things like that. So next, I need to ask, what math is happening to x? And then how do I undo that math? So I'll go ahead and write that over here. What math is happening to x? Or to your variable? And if I ask you what math is happening, there's a 2 next to it, and since there's no symbol between the 2 and the x, it's being multiplied. And there's also a minus and a 4. So it is being multiplied by 2 and subtracted by a 4. Then the next thing I would ask you is, how do you undo that math? And in a previous video I had mentioned that you work PEMDAS backwards. In the idea where whichever one you would do first when evaluating, you have to undo that last, because you're undoing them the opposite way, going backwards. So I have a multiplication and subtraction. So multiplication, if I was evaluating, I would do that first, because that becomes before this one. But because I'm solving, I want to go backwards, so I want to undo the addition or subtraction first. So I'm trying to get x by itself, so I want to move things away from x. So I want to get rid of this minus 4. So the opposite of to subtract 4 would be to add 4 to both sides. Minus 4 and plus 4 make that zero pair, leaving me just 2x is equal to, and if I have a negative 9 and a positive 4, that would give me a negative 5. And then again, what math is still happening to x? It's being multiplied. How do I undo that math? The opposite of multiplication is division. And I put a line under everything I'm dividing. Two divided by 2 is 1. X equals negative 5 over 2. I don't always have to write the 1. You could also just write x equals negative 5 over 2. And that would be your answer for that one. So if you were trying to learn, this would be a good time to pause the video and to try part B on your own, just to make sure that you have it down, and then resume playing and check that your steps match my steps. So I'm going to model this problem over here. I want to go ahead and bring my baby, which is the 8, over to my mama, which is the 10. The 8 is smaller than the 10, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and, the opposite of a positive 8 is a negative 8, so I'm subtracting that 8x from both sides, being aware where that imaginary number line was. So 8 minus, or 10 minus 8 gives me a 2x minus 1 is equal to this 0 pair, cancel out, and I still have a positive 6. Bring that down. Now the next thing, I would ask myself, what math is happening to x and how do I undo that math? I'm multiplying by 2 and subtracting by 1. So just like the last problem, I want to get rid of the addition and subtraction first. So the opposite of minus 1 is to add 1 to both sides. And then once I do that, I get 2x equals 7. And then I still have, if I ask what math is happening to x, it's not by itself, it's being multiplied, so I would then divide. And 2 divided by 2 is 1, x, which we don't need to write the 1 in front of it, so we can just write x, because just writing an x alone without a number in front of it implies that there's just one of them there. So that your answer would be 7 over 2. You could also write negative 2.5 over here, and you could write a positive 3.5 over here if you wanted to. You don't need to. So now examples C and D, and again, if you want to do some more examples to test to see how well you're doing, you can try and do this, pause it, and come back. For this one, just like up here, I want to bring my baby to my mama, and this negative x is smaller than this 7. So the opposite of a negative 1x, because there's an imaginary 1 there, is to add an x to both sides. There's my imaginary line. Just helps me organize where things should go. You don't need it. 7x plus 1x, remember there's that imaginary 1 right there, gives me 8x minus 7 equals, this was a 0 pair, a negative 1 and a positive 1, cancel out, and then I just have a 1 left over on that side. Then I ask what math is happening to x. It's being multiplied and subtracted, so the opposite is to add 7 to both sides. And then I get 8x equals 8. What math is happening? It's being multiplied, so the opposite of that is to divide both sides by 8. The x stays where it is, because that's what we're solving for. We want to isolate that. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so I just write x equals, and then 8 divided by 8 is 1, so our answer is x equals 1. Again, on part D, if you wanted to try this one on your own, I'm going to bring my baby to my mama. So my 2x is smaller than my 4x, so I'm going to bring it to this side. Keeping in mind where that imaginary line is, because I have the equal sign right there. This was a 0 pair, those go away. 4x minus 2x. 4 minus 2 is 2 x's. I didn't do anything with this 4, so it stays. The equal sign is still there. Remember that imaginary line. And this positive 12 gets brought down, because I haven't done anything with that yet. And then I would ask, is it by itself? No. What math is happening? It's being multiplied and added, so the opposite of that would be to subtract and then divide. So I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. So then I get 2x. This became a 0 pair, positive 4 and a negative 4. They are opposite ends, so when I add them together I get 0. And then equals, that stays right where it is. 12 minus 4 is 8. What math is happening to x? It's being multiplied by 2, so the opposite of that would be to divide. So dividing both sides by that 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so 1x, I can just write the x, is equal to, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, so you should have gotten a 4 as your answer there. So I hope this has been useful for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Have a great day.